Hello there and welcome back. The latest now from the rallies across the island. PAP candidate for Punggol East SMC, Charles Chong, was the first of 8 candidates to speak at Compassvale. Mr. Chong previously served as MP for Pasir Ris Punggol GRC and more recently Joo Chiat SMC. He spoke about the issues surrounding the Aljunied Hougang Punggol East Town Council.
Now, Punggol East residents are not responsible for the messy situation that the Aljunied Hougang Punggol East Town Council is now in. It is therefore timely to get Punggol East out of APEC, to get our accounts in order, to remove any reason for MND to withhold government grants, and more importantly, to eliminate the possibility of any of our managing agents writing "owe money, pay money."
Singapore needs a strong and stable government to keep it going, especially in the face of regional and global challenges. Well, that was the message by Deputy Prime Minister Teo Chee Hean, who is the PAP's candidate for Pasir Ris Punggol GRC.
There are many challenges that we have to face. The region and the world are facing growing economic uncertainty, weak demand, and financial shock after financial shock. Not in the developing countries, but the most developed countries in the world. These problems, terrorist attacks, economic turmoil, confrontation rather than consensus in politics, can easily spill over to our shores and destroy the peace and stability and progress that we have enjoyed for many decades. We need a strong and stable government to keep Singapore going, to build a better life for all of us in Singapore. We will work with you, for you, and for Singapore. We have no natural resources, yet Singaporeans' lives have improved steadily over the past 5 decades, year after year, as Singapore progressed. And how did we succeed? We tackled challenges together. We have a government that works together with you.
Well, Mr. Teo added that Singaporeans' lives have improved steadily despite the country's lack of natural resources. He said the nation succeeded by tackling challenges together.
It is easy to deliberately rake up and accentuate differences to cause confrontation and disharmony. But it is not so easy and much harder to have constructive dialogue and build consensus, to bring people together, to achieve a common goal, a greater whole that brings benefits to Singapore and Singaporeans, just like we did directly with all our people through the One Singapore conversations, which has resulted in consensus building and new programs and policies for Singapore.
Well, Mr. Teo also said that everyone progresses together in Singapore as the country develops, with no one being left behind. He asked which government and country is able to do that while keeping its financial status stable for the long term without going bankrupt.
We are honest and upfront with Singaporeans when we face difficult issues, explaining the issues, the consequences and the trade-offs. We are open and transparent. We don't hide things from you. We tell you what the real deal is and what the problems are. We share them with each other so that we can solve the problems together. Whatever the circumstances, we always try to do our best for Singaporeans, working with you, for you, and helping to improve the lives of all Singaporeans. The PAP works with Singaporeans and for Singaporeans to set out a clear direction for Singapore for the future. We have benefited from good leadership from the pioneer generation, with Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and his cabinet, with Mr. Goh Chok Tong and his team, working with Singaporeans, and now with PM Lee Hsien Loong's team, working with all of us. We have the long-term plans, the long-term vision, and the ability to carry them through for Singapore and for you. Our long-term vision and our plans have enabled us to overcome problem after problem.
Meantime, the Workers' Party held its second campaign rally tonight at Jalan Besar, and the party's candidate for Nee Soon GRC, Ron Tan, spoke first. And Mr. Tan called for additional support for families with young children. He wants more childcare and infant care centres to be built and measures to ensure that children from needy families receive government support.
No family or child should be disadvantaged by socio-economic background. We propose funds to be allocated to the Child Development Account, the CDA, of all parents automatically, and the amount to be standardized to $10,000 each for each child, instead of the current dollar-for-dollar matching practice. Children from families that are less well off should not be penalized because their parents do not have as much to set aside for them in the CDA.
Now, the WP's candidate for McPherson, Bernard Chan, touched on the party's education proposals, and they include having a scheme where trainee and practicing teachers are placed in schools to help underprivileged children in underperforming schools. Mr. Chan also touched on how WP wants to ensure that all schools are well prepared to help students.
WP wants to close this gap by ensuring equitable funding for schools, and this means giving additional funds to neighborhood schools so they can become just as well equipped and just as well prepared to offer the best to their students.
Meanwhile, another WP Jalan Besar candidate, Adrian Sim, focused on the PSLE, saying there is a deep reliance on the major exam as a benchmark for students' performance.
To be fair, we have seen some changes lately with a slight shift to reduce the focus on academic performance through standardized tests. However, that is not enough. We need to relook at the pace of the curriculums and reduce the class size to maybe 20 students per class. Of course, part of the stress is also because of the large gaps between the elite secondary schools and neighborhood schools. We can help narrow these gaps through more equitable funding for secondary schools. We can also make special efforts to channel more teaching resources to the weaker schools. If the gap is narrow, parents and students can become less stressed about what secondary school they can go.
Hello there, you're with News 5, and we are tracking tonight's election rallies happening across the country as we speak. Now, it's the first rally tonight for the Singaporeans' First Party held at Jurong Stadium, and one of its candidates for Jurong GRC, Wong Soon Hong, said that despite Singapore's education system being one of the world's best, it has been a little punctured recently.
Our education system has also indirectly produced a sort of kiasu and kiasi mindset in our parenting society. Our Singapore parent has somewhat uniquely developed a multi-million-dollar private tutoring industry. Some say this may be an Eastern phenomenon, but I doubt so. We were once told, whichever school you go, whichever class, or whichever principal you have, you will get a good education. That was told, but did it happen?
And also holding its first rally is the Singapore Democratic Party at Choa Chu Kang Stadium. Its candidate for Marsiling UT GRC, Damanhuri Abbas, said that as the minority representative of his team, he hopes to champion issues of importance to the Malay community.
Firstly, Malay women wearing the tudung is the most common sight in our society, as common as the flowering jasmine on a beautiful spring day. They are all over, teachers in schools, staffs of the MRT, bank officers, the McDonald lady, the female silat exponent in the recent SEA Games, and your next door makcik. And that is just to name a few. The last thing I thought that would happen, should Malay nurses tomorrow be allowed to wear the tudung, is to hurt the feelings of the auntie and the uncle at the polyclinic and hospitals. Because of that. Look, can I say something to assure my beloved Singaporeans from the majority race? My beloved fellow countrymen, when we, the society, allows the professional Malay nurses to wear the tudung, I guarantee you, they will look beautiful and clean. Just like the Honorable Madam Halima and all the female PAP Malay candidates on show in this general election. Don't they look awesome in those white tudung?
Now, SDP candidate for Holland Bukit Timah GRC, Dr. Chee Soon Juan, addressed the crowd in several dialects, Malay and English, and he touched on various issues, including the cost of living.
The most pressing issue that you've told us is the high cost of living. And because of this, the stressful lifestyle that we all struggle with in Singapore. In 2014, a survey by the Credit Lyonnais Securities Asia showed that almost half of households in Singapore have little or no savings. In other words, they live from paycheck to paycheck. Now, this is the middle class we're talking about. They're just one bill away from financial ruin. If your children contract a serious illness, or say if your elderly mother falls and breaks a hip and needs to go to hospital, or you get into an auto accident, you are staring into a financial abyss. Now, I don't know what you're going to do if this happens, but I know what I am going to do. I'm going to go into Parliament to make sure that we lower the cost of living.
Now, Manpower Minister Lim Swee Say, who is the anchor minister for the PAP's East Coast GRC slate, is speaking at Bedok Stadium right now. So let's listen in.
Meantime, at the same time, they're making better profit. What do? They give our workers higher salary, higher wage increases. In fact, for the last 4 years, for the last 10 years, the wages of workers in Singapore, whether it's a medium wage or bottom 20%, have all gone up in real terms, faster than inflation. So therefore, let me assure you, if you have any doubt that why did we pursue that higher manpower growth policy, I want to assure you, we did it for you. We did it for you. If this higher manpower growth policy is good, then why change? Why change? Now, every problem is a solution. So every old problem is a new solution, but unfortunately, every new solution will lead to a new problem. Our high growth policy was good for the workers, but after 10 years, we have a problem. The ratio of foreign workers to Singaporean workers to foreign workers start to drop because foreign workers grow faster than the local workers. So from 3 to 1, 3 Singaporean workers to 1 foreign worker, the ratio dropped to 2 to 1. If we continue that policy, the 2 to 1 one day could end up becoming 1 to 1. And beyond that, Singaporeans will wake up one day to find ourselves among the minority in the workforce. So as a government, we say no, that is not the way to go. So we have to find ways to grow our economy, create jobs, take care of people, a new way forward. So we decided to switch from a higher manpower growth to a lower manpower growth. So therefore, we tighten on the inflow of foreign manpower. Since 2010, the decision was taken in 2010 before the last GE. So anybody who tell you that the reason why government changed the policy is because of 2011, I want you to go and check the record in our parliament. Because in budget 2010, 1 year, 3 months before GE 2011, DPM Taman, who is also finance minister, already announced this policy shift in the parliament. 2010 February. Now, so what is the outcome? Since we talk about tightening, is it for real? Some Singaporeans say, talk only, but still see many foreigners. Let me give you this real number. Firstly, foreign PMEs, people coming under employment pass, under S-pass. The number per year dropped from 45,000 a year to last year, 13,000. The drop is 70%. The drop in the growth, 70%. It's a big drop. Of this number, EP S-pass, the drop in the EP, employment pass, people with university degrees, is even more drastic. From 30,000 a year a few years ago to 1,000 a year each year in the last 3 years. So therefore, I want you to know when we promise something, we deliver. When we say, if we cannot deliver because it's no good for you, we will not promise you. For example, when we're debating this in the parliament, some members of the parliament, not necessarily from the PAP, suggested, in fact, championed for complete freeze. No more increase in foreign manpower. We say slow down. They say slow down, not good enough. Complete freeze. Why didn't we take that path? Popular. Singapore very happy. Wow, freeze, very good. We say no. Why? Many of our SME in Singapore, they all employ foreign workers. With this tightening, many of the SMEs are already feeling the pain. You read newspaper, some may close shop because they say business is there but cannot find workers. Can you imagine? If we have freeze the foreign workers completely, how many more SME would have died by now? Yeah. Some may say, so what? We have more than 100,000 SMEs. Die law? Yeah. Let me tell you why, when I say NTUC and today MOM, why I'm so concerned for the SME. They account for 70% of our workers. Every 10 workers in Singapore, 7 work in SMEs. So if the SME sector goes down, tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of Singaporeans, their jobs also die. Yeah, so that's the reason why we did not take that path. Now, because of the slowdown in our...
And the Manpower Minister's fellow candidate for East Coast GRC, Lee Yi-Shen, was one of the early speakers at that rally at Bedok Stadium. He shared his vision for Kampong Chai Chee, the ward he is currently in charge of. Plans include building the Bedok Integrated Complex, which will house various amenities for residents.
I would like to share with you my vision of Kampong Chai Chee. Together, we can build a gracious and caring community. To do this well, we need to focus on and address our residents' needs. For instance, we are co-locating 7 amenities in a one-top activity center called the Bedok Integrated Complex, BIC. The 7 amenities are swimming pools and indoor courts, Bedok Library, Bedok Polyclinic, Senior Activity Center, Childcare Center, Kampong Chai Chee CC, and F&B outlets.
Now, PAP candidate for East Coast GRC, Jessica Tan, says the needs of Singaporeans must come first when it comes to policy making.
So whether we're talking about our education system, job opportunities, the quality of public services, affordable housing and home ownership, healthcare, or strengthening of our social networks, what is important is how these policies are able to empathize with the needs of Singaporeans and allow you to improve your lives. We must have this people-first, Singaporean-first approach so that we can focus on good policies.
And staying with PAP candidates for East Coast GRC, Dr. Muhammad Maliki Osman spoke about the need to assist lower-income families, and this includes ensuring that they have a roof over their head.
We have over 1,000 families. 1,000 families who have walked through the doors of 4650, and more than 70% have successfully moved out. with our help, with our desire to want to make life better for them. And of those, more than 30% of them are able to buy their own BTO flats. They are now housed in their own homes. How are they able to do that? Because we care. Because East Coast cares. And that's what we are. We are a community who cares for one another. We are a community who will not leave anyone behind. We are a community who will make sure that we'll walk together with every one of us, even if they are left behind.
Well, 9 rallies will be held tomorrow evening, and we're just going to take you through them quickly. The PAP will hold 2 rallies, one for Fengshan SMC along Bedok North Avenue 4 and another for Aljunied GRC at Defu Avenue 1. The WP will hold a rally for Nisun GRC at Yishun Stadium, and the SDP's rally for Bukit Panjang SMC is at Petir Road. Now, the Reform Party will hold a rally for Ang Mo Kio GRC at Yio Chu Kang Stadium, while the Singapore People's Party's rally for Bishan Toa Payoh GRC is at Toa Payoh Stadium. And the People's Power Party will hold its rally for Choa Chu Kang GRC at Bukit Gombak Stadium. The Singapore Democratic Alliance will be at Pasir Ris Park for Pasir Ris Punggol GRC. The National Solidarity Party at Woodlands Drive 75 for Sembawang GRC.